Okay, so this was, yep. So let's go back. All looks good so far. I mean, kind of small mistakes, nothing to like really harp on, but usually you play the corner approaches before you play the side approaches, because you can use less stones to surround more territory. So you'll typically see moves like this or like this before you'll see a move like this or like this. It's kind of hard to like quantitate how different it is, but it's easy to see, right? You only need to surround two sides when you're using a corner, whereas in the side you need to surround 1, 2, 3 sides to get the territory. So just something to be mindful of, but not really a big mistake here by any stretch.
Okay, I'll try.
Yeah. So this is fine, no big mistakes yet. Yep, all looks good. So this is definitely a playable move. But I will say it's kind of asking for a fight, right? Like it's basically saying white's going to invade and separate. So it's definitely a playable move, but something to be mindful of if you want to take a more cautious approach, which you could certainly just do a 3-space extension here and be perfectly happy. And white might play something like this, and this would be a perfectly playable result for both sides. Black would probably either take a big move over here or a big move over here and be perfectly happy. When you play this move, you're basically saying, okay, I want to fight.
Would the 3-3 at the bottom work here?
You could do that, but I might not recommend it in this particular position because this stone is well placed to reduce the strength of this group. And so this group is not going to be able to use its strength to its fullest. And now these two stones are a little bit left high to dry. And so if you were to protect these stones, then this group's going to come under attack.
Yeah, so your Panuki is not really that strong.
Okay.
Exactly. And then obviously play here, then white's going to play here. And then you have 2 weak stones over here. So you could consider it, but I think just extending out is usually going to be the best move.
Because the top right's not settled yet.
It's not settled. And like these 2 stones are sacrificable, but I think that extending here is a big move for both sides because black can make territory and white could also get a nice attack if black doesn't, if it's just something like this, it's quite clear that these stones are under a pretty severe attack. And black's territory here is obviously fine, but white's making something too. So it's this stone at 6 is very well placed.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So again, white's going to pincer here, right? And so again, if you just play the standard variation, white's going to get a really nice attack on these stones. And so yes, you do make nice corner territory, but I would be perfectly happy as white here too. So usually you don't see R4 unless white already has a move here. And the reason for that is the cut is not that effective. White's probably going to play something like this. Something along these lines. And now white gets a really strong position on the outside, and this stone's is quite efficient. And the reason why you might not see it, why you'll see this move more often when white already has a stone here, is that when white blocks here, white doesn't want to do that exact same shape as before, because now this stone is a little bit weirdly placed. So if you were to do this exact stone, this stone here is just too close to the white strength. So that's why you typically don't see black just attach here without white already having the stone at 03. Because you want to make white over concentrated.
Yeah.
And it's also Ivan, do you know the term aji keshi?
No.
So aji, do you know what aji is?
No.
Okay, so the translation is basically taste, or like in this instance, bad taste, like it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So there's a lot of room to play. So like, for example, this upper right corner for white, the aji here is this R17 move, this 3-3. There's a lot of things that could still happen. It's not perfectly settled. That's what we describe as aji. Aji keshi is getting rid of aji. And that's not something you actually want to do to your opponent. You want to get rid of your own aji, but you want to make sure you maintain your opponent's aji. So by attaching here, you lose out on potentially playing R3 later on. So by attaching here, now white's going to get that corner territory. Like this is now a very safe position. That makes sense?
Yeah. That's a bad move for the.
It's not that it's bad, it's just, it's, there's a couple things that might make it a little suboptimal, but certainly not unplayable.
Okay.
I would say this is definitely a bad move though. For the reason is, imagine if you played here and white played here. Are you going to come here now? Probably not. You're going to attack this stone, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So it ends up creating the same variation than if white played here, boom, 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 right? So if we take a look and we say, okay, well, let's say black started with there, played here, played here. We already went over that we don't want this shape for black. And now white makes a lot of territory here and black gets a really kind of cramped position here. So this is really suboptimal for black. That makes sense? You can see that this is not a good result for black. So if we're not getting a good result for black from the same position, why would we recreate it, right? Like, why would we allow ourselves to have this happen?
Yeah, but I saw the potential of making the second knight there after all of that. So
Yeah, I would say that the Hane is definitely going to be the best move here, though. It kind of takes away that clean white shape that we saw where white just got all this territory here. And if white wants to take the territory on the outside, black can very happily just take the inside territory and be perfectly fine here. And this is quite a nice chunk of change for black. So this would be a perfectly good result for black too.
okay.
Yeah. So even though you're living here, your shape is not great because now white is super strong on the outside, gets a nice attack on this. And this group isn't alive yet either, right? If black plays away and white plays here, this group locally doesn't have two eyes. Even if black plays here, it still locally doesn't have two eyes. White plays here, boom.
And still there is no many points over there. So.
It's not many points and it's not a lot. It's not even potentially live. So even if so by playing this move at eight, excuse me, at S8, you're making white much stronger on this. So now the attack over here is going to be quite severe, and this group is not getting you very much. This white group over here is still strong. It's just not getting you enough of what you need to do. So this would be a really, I would say, unplayable result for black.
Okay, so basically, alternative is to get more attached to the two stones on the.
Yeah, I would try running out. Again, this is the concept of Ajikeshi, right? I would try running out and then maybe pincer. So now you can protect this stone a little bit. You can protect these two stones. It's attacking this stone. And if your opponent runs out, you can always connect underneath. And this would be a much better way for white to play, for black to play. So now black makes territory here, protects this group. White makes some territory, but it's not a ton. So yeah, I would recommend 1 and then 3.
Okay, good advice.
And then when you extend here, so now it's clear that you're trying to protect these stones. You're kind of backing off, but now these 3 stones are under severe attack, right? So you're a little too busy here because white only has this one weak group here, these 3 stones, but black has a weak group here, and a weak group here. You have too many things to protect where white only has one weak group. And not only that, white's making solid territory here. So even if you get out, it's going to be really tough to actually get a good attack on this group. And now this group is easily out. White's made territory here, and this group of blacks is still under attack. So we don't want to let that happen. So, I think when you play here, you have to come and play here. White play here, black will play here, and maybe something like this will happen, where you're not quite strengthening white at the bottom, but you are protecting your group here. A little bit more of a higher level concept, but at the end of the day, what you don't want to do is you don't want to make your opponent stronger. And when you attach to a weak stone, you make your opponent stronger because they have 2 moves to your 1. So kind of going back, this S8 move is really going to be a killer for you. And then again, followed up by S9 because you have these 3 weak stones that you have to worry about.
So still it's too far from that 2 stones.
It's these stones are still a little bit too far from these, but again, you've just created this really weak group here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think white can just go ahead and kill these stones by playing here. And now this even though you've strengthened this, it's hard to say that that's better than just having played here in the first place, right? Because that's about the same amount of territory that you're getting, but you haven't given white a whole group to kill. So when we look at it ahead, right, like, oops, excuse me. I think you play it here for instance. And you know, now these are solidly white points, and the territory that black got is not very much different. So we can say that this is definitely a loss for black.
Yeah.
Similar idea. Although maybe not as strong. This white move is probably a little questionable. I think that it should be at p6. Puts more pressure on the black group. Probably white should hane here. If black plays here, something like this might happen. And white can make a little bit more territory here and keep up the pressure on this group as well. So maybe something like this where, you know, you can keep up the pressure on this group and whites can still get out while making territory. Again, your goal here should really be getting to as much territory at the bottom as possible while keeping this group weak. And I say your goal, but I really mean white's goal. So for black, what black could probably consider doing if white plays here is playing here. Try to get a little bit further out. This is okay too. But you know, just giving white more territory at the bottom. Yep.
I saw that, but I was playing to took the upper side.
Yeah, so jumping out here would be good timing. You don't want to add another move here because that allows white to just completely solidify this territory. And you really want to focus on attacking these 4 stones. So white will probably play something like this, and you can play something like this. And the nice thing about this is you've solidified your territory on the right side. You've protected this weak black group here. And white didn't get any territory here. So this is how you want to attack, right? You want to keep the group floating a little bit and actually make territory. So white's attack at the bottom was quite successful. Playing like this would be a successful attack for black because you're able to protect this area while making territory, get this group out. That's exactly how you want to play. The goal of an attack is not to kill.
Yeah, I think that's a very important concept.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's because here's the thing: if you attack to kill and you don't kill, you've gained nothing most often. So, so this is a good move by white. Excuse me. Good timing. It's good shape. Yeah. Unfortunately, this kind of one space jump is going to be impossible to cut. Black's just going to very easily going to be able to block. White plays here and then connect out, and you didn't really gain much by this exchange. Where it's possible that later on you might want to cut here or something like that. So making these exchanges so early on might be a little bit questionable. And it doesn't help. It's also possible that white could, play something like this and attack, and get a nice shape on the outside. So pushing through and trying to cut is, especially when it doesn't work, is it's not helping. Not only is it not helping, but it's actually harming you. Yeah. Look at this ugly shape for black too, right? Yeah, so this is what happened in the game. I would say this hane is a little bit too aggressive, especially after these moves here. Now white is really strong here, so white can go ahead and cut because white's really strong at the bottom. Black has no strength over here and has this one weak group to deal with, whereas white has super strength, weak black group, right? So I'm not really sure. You'd have to play something like this, which means you just gave away that M3 stone or M4 stone, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And center, because you have to protect the cut.
And you have to protect, right? And so something like this will happen, and it's hard to really say if white's going to get out. I mean, black's going to get out, right? Like maybe, I don't know, something could happen, but it's tough, right?
Yeah.
Oops, excuse me. I don't know. It's maybe it's Seki, but it's still a really good result for white. Yeah. But either way, white gets a lot of territory. That extra stone here is quite large too. So I think at this point, black just has to jump or extend.
Yeah.
So in the game, white just blocked here, but a big loss for white. Black should probably just extend here and maybe jump out. This would be a little bit of a nicer way to play. This move is effectively forcing for this white zone. So if white were to jump here, white doesn't have a good way to cut without losing all of its territory, or to block without losing all of its territory. So this would actually be an okay result for black. Even if white were to cut, you could in theory, sacrifice the stone and attack this, and that would be okay. You give up these stones in order to attack this. So knowing that this is Sente is quite a nice move, because it allows you to get a little bit better, excuse me, it allows you to get some better shape here. Something like this or like this. And now white's further ahead in the race and hasn't really given anything to black black's further ahead in the race and hasn't given anything to white that white wasn't already entitled to. So a subtle concept, but basically, looking at this, is this stone really helping all that much?
Oh,
No, we'd rather have the stone here, right? So we want to figure out a way to get that stone here. And the easiest way to do that would be to play here first and then play here.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, I would say this move is maybe unnecessary right now. You still have a really weak group at the bottom, so I would probably play here and then, something like this. It's going to be really hard for white to get a good attack on these stones. And white would need more strength over here, in which case you can protect. If white plays something like this, it's not that big a deal. There's, even here. So it's not that this is a bad move per se, but I think the focus really should be on these stones at the bottom. So white's going to push. Yep. So this is okay. Again, you're not going to be able to run out this way because that's where white's strength is. So don't even bother trying to run out there, because you're making white stronger as you're doing that. What you'll probably want to focus on is doing something like this. And trying to run out in this direction, because that's not where white's strength is. But it's going to be, no matter what though, because white is so strong here, it's going to be a tough fight for black. Oop. So white, so here maybe a couple questionable things. I think black probably should have played here, and something like this may have happened. It's possible that white could try to seal in, but I think that black should be able to get out okay. If white pushes up, black's gonna be able to get out this way. So I think the focus again should be going on the left side as opposed to the top side. I think that if black plays here and white just plays here, I'm not really sure how black's gonna live. Something like this would happen, and it's going to be a tough fight for black, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's see if just a few more moves. White should definitely jump here, by the way. This is just much better shape, and it gets a much better attack on this black group. By playing here, it allows black to be ahead in the race. By playing here, it allows white to be ahead in the race. Sure. Again, same thing, right? Like instead of this move, it should be something like this. This move is actually not a good exchange. It's possible there's some Aji here. Something like this could be annoying later on. So I wouldn't make these moves quite yet. I would still focus on trying to figure out a way to attack this. So something like this is what I would be thinking about. So you can build a little bit of strength by attacking these stones in order to seal these in. And this would be, again, a pretty strong attack on these stones. And I'm not quite sure what black would be able to do here. Black would probably start by pushing here, but it's not clear that this works. There's still no two eyes here.
Yeah.
I think in the interest of time, because we're already at the halfway mark, I think we have at least two people waiting. We'll switch to David's game, if that makes sense. Were there any questions you had, Ivan?
No, thank you.
Yeah.
It looks so simple when you're doing it.
I think the key that I would say for you is just when, don't touch a weak stone because that makes it stronger. And be mindful of the direction that you're playing. You don't want to go into your opponent's strength because it's going to be harder for you to play, right? And so when you were playing moves towards this white strength, that's kind of questionable, right? You want to go towards white doesn't have the strength.